Well, I must say that at this moment right here, I am absolutely elated. I think elated is the right word, because here, great day at work. Here's specifically what was happening, because today was the first day that we went on the phones, like, and actually we're making phone calls. Now, there was supposed to be something that went from 11 to 12, but then that got overridden by one of the top performing salespeople having a conversation with the new people. And that was a very good conversation. It was good to see that insight, sort of the drive. What's really fucking sweet is all of the sales training videos that I've been watching and all of the things that make sense. Things like taking an educational sort of perspective. Things like the person who cares more about the prospect is in control of the conversation. Things like sell something that actually works, like speak with conviction. That's what I get online. And then hearing that from people who are experienced actually in the field doing it, saying the exact same thing, it's going like, okay, cool. Like, I can see that pattern recognition, that therefore what they're saying actually makes sense. And more importantly, therefore the work that didn't really feel like work because I was going on just like watching videos actually did pay off, because now I can recognize that as just a feedback going like, no, that's actually something that I should listen to. But so we didn't start actually calling until more the afternoon. But within the first 3 calls that I made, I actually booked a demo. And that's like my role as a junior account executive. And the phone call lasted 10 minutes, followed the script. The script was fantastic as a resource to use. Like, it was really useful. But what I'm proud of myself for is because I could, in listening to the recording afterwards, I could hear myself doing things that a good salesperson should do that I wouldn't necessarily have done in the past. For example, one of the big things was, well, he didn't really give a lot of feedback. He kind of was trying to brush me off a lot. Like, one word answers like, yep, that, like, not actually like when I ask a question, then kind of engaging in the question backwards. But the one thing that I was trying to work myself to in this tribe monologue, whatever, was at that one point in the script, I have to suggest it, like ask him what time would he like to book a 30-minute demo with one of the account executives. And I said going like, could you do it this afternoon, or would tomorrow morning work better? And his reply was, yeah, well, we're in the middle of the office move right now. It's like probably next week. And I fully well know, based on like the previous phone calls that I have done, that what that turns out in the end, if I say like, okay, cool, I'll book you for next week, is that guy's not showing up. Like he's just trying to get rid of me. So then I went, I forget what I said specifically, but instead of just accepting that, I kind of dodged it and then pushed back, going like, oh, okay, so it doesn't sound like now's a very good time. Or I said, but like, what if the product was worth it? Or actually, I think, no, I was just quiet. And then he said like, the sales pitch has got to be good. And then so I replied to that, was going like, okay, so as long as it's a good sales pitch, then you take the call. And then he went going like, okay, well, like every sales pitch should be a good sales pitch. And I said, yeah, well, we both know that isn't true. But so how about this? How about tomorrow at 10 o'clock Alberta time, you will receive a phone call from one of our account executives and they will deliver you a quality sales pitch, which he agreed to. But again, it was very cringy to listen to myself do that, because I was sweating bullets the whole time. So it was kind of a little bit reliving that, but it was still nice to see the fact that I had progressed in my ability to persuade somebody to do something, which ultimately is what the skill of sales is. So it's just cool to see that growth. But the other thing is, there was a competition for the new people because we had a 2-hour block to do phone calls after another meeting between 2 and 4 p.m. And the competition was who could make the most phone calls. And whoever made the most phone calls won a $50 gift card or voucher for Uber Eats. And I wanted to win it. And so I did my usual thing of having the experience of just going like, okay, you dial, leave a voice message, click next, just get to the next one. You're gonna feel uncomfortable, but just let that be numb. You just have to expose yourself to be doing it enough times such that you don't feel the discomfort anymore, which is working. But so I got to 37 calls, and each time I finished or started a call, I would make a tally on a piece of paper so that I actually could get a visual of how many I made, so that I was more encouraged to continue calling, because again, it would remind me of the score. And then the subtle psychological trick is when I can see my score but nobody else's, I assume that everyone's scores is close to mine, because it's the only data point I have to work with. But so in the end, I had 37 phone calls, and in the end I did end up winning the competition. And so that was just it was nice. The person who came in second place made 34 phone calls, so it was close. So it was good that I actually pushed through. But additionally, my talk time was at 63 minutes, and their talk time was only at, it was like 33 minutes, which I found very surprising, because I wouldn't have said that I had many phone calls that lasted long. In any case, I'm in a very happy mood right now as a consequence of doing well, as well as the debrief meeting also had some of the other people in the organization, and everyone has a very friendly, bubbly, positive attitude and vibe to them. So then it just is like, again, I don't know if I've said it already, but everything about this new job and company is reinforcing the idea that it is the best thing for me right now. So then that's cool, and I'm just happy. I'm happy that it's working, and I'm happy that I'm seeing progress, and I'm moving towards something, which is I am moving towards the long-term goal that I am attempting to pursue at the moment. Because the moment, like I go, like, I want to start a business, but I can't start a business because I don't have the skills. So step one, get the skills. So seeing actual progress of me developing those skills is like, okay, cool. I may not be a fucking brilliant salesperson right now, but because I have made progress, that is proof to myself that I will be a brilliant salesperson eventually, so long as I continue to try to become better every day. Yes, so that's that. The other thing I wanted to talk about was I was watching some of the old personal growth collection videos that I had made, and it was very weird, because a lot of the things that I was saying are still the problems that I'm working through now. Or it's just interesting to hear me say stuff like, I need to focus on it being an intrinsic thing versus an extrinsic thing, that the extrinsic thing can add support to the motivation, but if I don't have an intrinsic motivation there, then I am at mercy at whatever extrinsic force is controlling me. Like, so it's useful to have social people pushing you forward, but if you're just doing it for the social people, then you're going to lose course with what you actually want. Or also, it was interesting to hear me say and talk about actually wanting to start a business. Like, I didn't realize that I had been having these thoughts specifically for at least 2 years. So that's cool. And then it makes me wonder, have I not made progress on any of the thoughts I'm trying to work through? Or is that what life is like? Or a third alternative would be, do working through these thoughts genuinely take time? Which probably makes more sense. The one thing I also noticed about myself is I stuttered a lot, seemed a lot more anxious, wasn't as, I wouldn't say as articulate, but I felt more anxious. I'm curious whether that was as a consequence of me being young, in the position I was in, the behaviors I was doing, or my relationship with this camera. because I think back then I was much more aware of the fact that somebody could be watching this. But right now I don't feel that way, because honestly, watching the videos that are posted in public online on YouTube, there's no views on them. Like there's maybe 1, 2. The one that has the most is the most recent one, which makes sense because if people go to the channel for a different sort of video, it's the first one they're going to see, so they might click on it, but they're not, doesn't mean they're actually going to watch it. But then just I go, the entire stress of going like, oh, what are people going to think about this? It's not there, because I go like, no one's going to care about that. And really nobody is going to be interested in what these videos have inside until I become an interesting person. These videos are not going to make someone who does not know me interested in me, because the videos are not interesting to anybody except for me, because they are of me. Which is just to say, I'm wondering if I have grown, and what does that actually look like? I think I'm going to try to stick to this. I also ordered, and it got delivered today, a way to put this SD card with all the videos on it onto the computer, so I actually can start editing again. As well as I've been thinking of ideas of more better content videos that I could be making. Like, what if, because the one business idea I have is ideas are tools, and then it's kind of just like, it's a long conceptual process that actually isn't thought through. But the video ideas are, if I take a sentence and then explain it, like, fear is a more powerful motivator than pleasure. Because then I can go like, okay, the wrong interpretation of this, therefore I should make everyone feel afraid of losing their job, because then they're going to work harder, but then that's problematic because then it creates a bad toxic culture, and then I can break that down and then show the more positive interpretation of it is you work with people to set goals for themselves so they see the reality they want. They have something worth working towards, and then you outline the reality in detail of the reality of what not attaining that looks like, and then listing the behaviors to get the thing that they do want, and listing the behaviors they have to do to get the thing they don't want, so that whenever they see themselves acting more in line with the list of behaviors that get the thing they don't want, they become deathly afraid and do the opposite. As well as, I think that because I'm reading books, if I made courses that went into detail on each chapter of a particular book, that would not only be informative, but the goal wouldn't be to be informative for somebody else. The goal would be to give me an exercise that would allow me to better encode and remember the information found and locked inside the book, so that I could retrieve that later. Because like, if you read a book once, you're not going to remember as much as if you read it twice, nor as if you read it and then write down what it said inside of it, which is ultimately what the education system is trying to do when it gives you a book report. Like, that's the point of writing an essay. Like, you really have to engage in the text, and then writing it down has to make you think about it so that you remember it long term. So like, what if I did that for myself and then also got the chance to try to make it engaging on a video editing front by adding texts or graphics or whatever, that it would... The thing I have to remember is it's not going to be successful this year nor next year. It's going to be successful eventually. The variable modifying or in control of whether or not it is successful is whether or not I stop. As long as I continue, I will see success. Now, there's some nuance to that. Like, you have to do it effectively. You have to consistently improve. But again, as long as you have continue, then you can add those other things on top. If you don't have continue, it doesn't mean if you try. It doesn't matter if you try to get better, because you can't try to get better when you're not continuing to do the thing you're trying to get better at. But that's just to say, today has been a great day. Yeah.